bizarre murder cases have recently occurred in Raccoon City. There are outlandish reports of families being attacked by a group of about 10 people. Victims were apparently eaten.
And I was really fascinated, never seen a game like it before.
People like shooting zombies.
I just remember being really freaked out because I was way too young to be playing it.
It's kind of giving newer life.
My earliest memory, I think, wasn't playing it, but I think it was watching someone else play it. I think I went to my cousin's house and they were playing the first game, if I recall. I just sat and watched it. I must have been, I don't know, 5 or 6. So far too young to be watching it, really. And sort of just watching them play it and seeing it unfold, and it's sort of the first horror game that I think I ever remember watching. So yeah, that would be my first memory.
Resident Evil is probably the first shooting game I played that involved zombies.
Okay, so Chapter 1 of Resident Evil Revelations, the second one, is on PlayStation for free. And I played that years ago. And I remember none of it, but I did play it years ago. I just remember being really freaked out because I was way too young to be playing it.
So my earliest memory is the very first game. So I had when I was growing up, I grew up in the northeast of England, and we had this sort of sleepy little market town that I grew up in. I had a game shop, secondhand games, and it was owned by this guy who used to set up various consoles in the shop that allowed the customers just to play whatever they wanted, basically. And buying something was sort of a bonus for him. It was like he just wanted to have a good time playing games all day. So it was a really cool place. So I used to go there after school, and then one day he had Resident Evil had just come out, the very first Resident Evil. So he had a PlayStation set up, and that was that. And somebody else was playing it, and I was watching them play it, and I was really fascinated. Never seen a game like it before, and then I got to have a go, and I started the game from the beginning, and encountered the first zombie, got completely confused with the tank controls, and ended up dying a miserable death very, very quickly.
My earliest memory of Resident Evil, I feel like, oh my god, don't know if I was really, say, a kid, but I was probably around teenage years when I first learned about it. It wasn't super early in my life, but it was definitely early enough that I'm looking back on it, and I was like, that was almost a decade ago.
Jill's fun. Jill's a good time. Mainly because of the silly lines said about her. Jill sandwich, etc. And then Leon, just because he's your kind of archetype hero, you kind of classic, charming, handsome, broody boy. So yeah, probably out of those two. Kind of old school classic ones, those two, but yeah,
I do also quite like Chris Redfield. Most of my experience was with Ethan Winters on the games. I've played those games quite a few times, in recent months, and yeah, I just enjoy the story of Ethan Winters, and also how much tetanus he probably should have.
Man blood.
Yeah, I think my favourite is probably Jill, because she's been in about two of my favourite games, Resident Evil 3 and obviously Resident Evil 1. I don't know. I think she just seems to be the coolest. But it's a bit of a shame that she hasn't really been in any of the recent games. Chris and Leon seem to be the favourites when it comes to Capcom's mind, because they've been in the most of the films. But yeah, I think Jill, just maybe because she was maybe the first character of the first game that of Resident Evil game that I played. So she seems to be the best off in terms of weapons, and yeah, I think it's probably Jill.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wouldn't say protagonist, but my favorite is actually Jack Krauser, because this man, I feel he has a great character arc in terms of becoming a villain in Dark Chronicles. It shows him being very, not by the book, but very strict, very firm, we're here to do this mission, we're not trying to save everyone, we're trying to do what we're told to do. as they're going throughout the journey, like, you can see Krauser kind of warming up to Leon, even though he was very standoffish with him in a few manners. But it was towards the end where I believe he ends up like getting his arm injured and he's just taken out of commission. That was probably the best pivot point for a character that is so focused about his mentality, I guess, was just so, if you're strong, if you're fit, you're going to survive. If you're one of the weak, you're not surviving. And that's when he probably had that moment of realization, like, he's not as strong as he thought he was. And that's what kind of pushed him into the villain role that he has.
You're too soft to do what's necessary.
It's like a lot of games. They have sequels, same as films. You know, they've made so many Resident Evil films now as well. So the game is only going to carry on going, and they're probably on Resident Evil 8 now, something like that. So it's just a big franchise. That's all. We're going to capitalise on it by making more of them to make more money.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see why, because they've done well. You know, at the end of the day, they're a company that wants to sell games and make money. You know, that's kind of it. And so far, I think due to the sort of success of 7 and Village, which kind of really mixed up the play style of the series and kind of reinvented the series as a whole, they're now kind of retroactively going back and going, okay, we can make these games more in those styles because those styles did really well. But maybe it would be more interesting to see new stuff. Maybe it would be more interesting to say, okay, where can we go further? Why are we going back and trying to remake where we could explore further? We could find new characters, find new stories instead of revisiting them all. But there's such a strong fandom and such a strong following of the games, both in the original, in the original Japanese versions, which there are differences, and the international versions, that it's kind of a safe bet to remakes. They're going to do well. You can sort of guarantee that they're going to be received pretty well. People are going to enjoy them. So I think maybe Capcom are playing it safe in some regards and just using this opportunity to kind of get more audience in. Hopefully that means they will keep making new ones as well, I'd hope, and not just become a remake company, because that would be a bit boring. So yeah.
I think it's great because it brings it to a newer audience, especially people who only got in with 7 and 8, who maybe don't want to deal with the graphics or the bugs of trying to play older versions. But I always do worry with remakes of games that maybe they'll lose parts of the original game that were really enticing to older players.
Bitch can't even swim.
Keep your eyes on the road ahead. Don't be drawn into the light or the shadows in your head. Keep your eyes on the road ahead and don't ever look back. Don't ever look back.
Mission accomplished, right?
I got a feeling in my bones that everything's gonna
Press it
be
again.
fine.
There we go. What I'll do is I'll give you a clap. That way you can sync your sounds. I'll do this.
Right, you ready?
Do you have noise suppression on?
No, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you might want to turn that off.
Oh, no. Wait,
Yeah.
OBS?
On Discord.
How do I sound now? Any different?
Yeah, it's a lot better, yeah.
Okay. I am live, almost.